Is this thing on? All right, gang. It is me, your 7th Gear Show host, Kevin Krause, back with part 2 of our doubleheader here today on the 7th Gear Show. If you guys tuned in earlier today, you saw a great show with Angela Savage and Ted Warner. Talked a lot about her life and the book that they're writing together. Broke some news about Swede Savage's memorabilia coming back to Indianapolis, kind of where it belongs. Talked about Angela's mom coming out to visit the Speedway for the first time since the accident 40 plus years ago. So we've got a great show again tonight. As you can see, we've got some guests in the gallery here. We'll see how they chime in and how that affects the show.
700.
But again, 7th Gear Show tonight. Keep in mind, as always, we are brought to you by BeNonHuman.com for all your lifestyle and apparel needs. So make sure that you go and support them. They're doing great work. As well, you can click on the Krause collection there to get your latest offerings of my swag, if you will. But that said, tonight, and Rudy Lopez, right on, Rudy, and Missy, you're on. See, we already got people tuning in. So while, yeah, see, this is already devolving 30 seconds into the show. This is going to be a long show.
Buckle up, kids.
Yeah, buckle up. Exactly right. So while earlier today we talked about, Swede Savage and all that he meant to the motorsports world and to Angela and to Ted and all that kind of stuff. But tonight we're going to literally shift gears. Hey, Ernie, glad you're tuned in as well. But tonight we are going to talk about brains. Really sexy topic, but really important. And my guest tonight, I've known him for a couple of years now. We got introduced through a mutual friend of ours in motorsports while Kevin was working chiropractic. But now this, and I hesitate to say this because this may give him some literally comedic license, but this is a pretty brilliant guy, really outside the box thinker, the founder of Brain Force Centers here in Fishers, Indiana, as well as Cortical Impact Solutions, and he's going to give us his perspective on kind of how he got to this point, what he's working on, how and what Brain Force Centers are. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera around here, and I'm going to introduce you to my good friend here, Mr. Kevin Butterfield, as I move the camera up here, along with Julie. So thank you guys very much for joining us on the 7th Gear Show tonight. We really appreciate you opening up your office to us here in the whole 7th Gear Nation. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
All right, do I have to be like the teacher and tell you to just, keep your head in your book here for a second?
No.
You're killing me, Paul.
No, we're good.
You're killing me already.
We're good.
All right, so obviously, as I mentioned in the intro, you and I have known each other for a couple of years, back when you were doing chiropractic work. Give us a little, all of the 7th Gear viewers for that matter, give us a little bit of background on how you not only went from chiropractic to, I guess for lack of a better term, and you can correct me here, essentially neuroscience and studying brains, because obviously, it's from a motorsports perspective, there's a whole lot to talk about, but it's not just, what you're doing here is not just about motorsports. It can help a lot of people in a lot of different areas in terms of brain wellness, brain health, that sort of thing. So give the 7th Gear viewers a little bit of background of how you got to this point.
Well, I guess the brain force, that's Andy's fault that I'm here, and I'll get into that in a second. And the brain stuff is my dad's fault. I've been exposed to, we can talk about the brain force, and she's my partner in business and all the stuff that we're doing here. So I just want to give her props for that. We could not be here without her where we are. But as far as what we do here is you can't get we treat the brain, okay? We treat the brain not with medicine, not with pharmacology, nothing like that. You can't get 10 doctors to say what causes autism, PTSD, ADD, but you can get 10 doctors to say the brain waves are messed up for some reason. There's a food problem, whether it's leaky gut syndrome or some other issue, and there's a problem at home. I mean, it's awful, obviously it's a stressful environment. So we have an interdisciplinary approach, and we bring all those doctors into one place to treat all those scenarios here. But I used to be, I know it's hard to believe, I mean the audience will have a hard time with this one, that I used to be a bully. I'm not a physical bully, I was a mental bully in 3rd grade.
As he says with a smirk, so there's some latent guilt there, I can
What
tell.
are you talking about? No, it's so my friend Andy I would always tease him because he was different. And nobody knew why he was different. But he thought I hung the moon. So we just had this bond. This was way back in 3rd grade. So I remember 2 instances, like they happened yesterday. One time the teacher asked us, the class, who wanted to clean the erasers. And I raised my hand. She picked me. She said, I can pick somebody else. Who don't want to pick? I picked. Andy was in the back of the room screaming, pick me, pick me, pick me. So I picked Andy. So we got the erasers, walked out the door. I took the erasers, smacked them all over his head, so he looked like he had George Washington hair. We turned right back around, went in. Everyone was laughing at him. He looked at me like he was happy that, he could be part of making everyone laugh, But anyway, he wasn't really there to understand or get it that I was teasing him. So I had a problem with that. Not right then, but when the trampolines would go through the schools back in the day, it's something new, and it came through our school. And when our class went up to jump on the trampoline, Andy was like my shadow. He followed me around. I told him to stand in the back of the class, or the gym. I kept taking the spots and kept jumping. He saw how much fun we were all having. And then he said, can I go now? And I kept saying no. And then I finally said, okay, Andy, now you can go. And then Andy started running towards the trampoline and the bell rang before he even got to the trampoline. So the teachers tried to grab him. He kept trying to run to the trampoline. Anyway, he turned around and he was crying. So from that point on, I didn't like myself very well. I said, and this is 3rd grade. I said, if I can make a kid cry like that, I'm never going to say no to a kid again. Ever. So what happened, I never did. So from that point on, all the kids that were different came over to me if they were getting bullied, and I would have to go take care of business for those guys. That's how it was. He went to a different school or moved, and I went to a different school and moved in about 4th grade. Never saw or heard from him again, ever. But I thought about him all the time, because I wanted to find Oprah or Dr. Phil, and I said, you got to find Andy for me, because I want to tell him, first of all, I'm sorry for being such a bully, and I want to thank him for making him who I am today, because I was always looking out for these kids,
Right.
So then we finally got in touch on Facebook, 40-some years later, and I messaged him, said, Andy, is that you? And I could tell it was him. I said, give me your number. I got to talk to you, because I had to tell him that I apologize and thank him.
Right.
So what I did was, when he called me, he goes, I need to get a girlfriend. I said, Andy, I'll help you get a girlfriend. That's not a problem. So I picked up the phone and started calling. I was talking to him. I did all the talking. I was just rambling on a mile a minute, so how glad I was to see him, hear from his voice, everything. And he goes, I need to find a girlfriend. I said, yeah, buy her flowers, be nice to her. That's how you do it. You got to treat, I was trying to give him my advice. And then at the end, when I got done talking, he goes, what if she doesn't let me jump on the trampoline? And I said, Andy, then that's the wrong one. So he kept that in his mind all these years, and so did I. So what we know now, what he did have was Asperger's, which is exactly the kids that we try to help here. So that is a big thing for us. And what I want to do to tell him thank you is we want to have a foundation for kids that really need help, that can't afford to get help. So we want to call it Andy's Trampoline.
Oh, very cool.
So that way, down the road in the future, that him and I, we'll just carry on, when it's our final curtain call. So that's what brought this into place. Gotcha. I met Julie through LinkedIn because she did a lot of stuff with helping kids, needy kids as well. We're a perfect fit as far as that goes. And we did a campaign to bring awareness for traumatic brain injury in Pirelli with Ernie Jr.
Right, I remember that, wellness racing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's another thing we can get into, because that ties into the other story that I have.
Sure, yeah. TBI is certainly something that's near and dear to my heart as well, so
yeah.
I can appreciate that.
That's how we formed this, and we want to expand this into a national location where people, if they have any issues with learning disabilities, PTSD, concussions, anxiety, depression, we want to be the ones to help that.
And that's one of the things I was going to ask you, because when you first told me about this, when you were still over at the chiropractic office, you were talking about having basically a string of these locations all over the place.
Yes, that's because I mean with technology today, you can pinpoint exactly where the problem is in the brain, where there's too much activity or not enough. So let's just say there's just a small area in the brain. Let's say like 600 little boxes in the brain that have all this overflow of electrical activity. We focus on that to calm it down. If you take the medications, you're bathing the whole brain in that stuff. So that's where all those side effects and all this other stuff comes up. So we want to find the problem, see if they're in the right place, and if they are, we'll go ahead and treat that. Now, as far as the story goes with the brain stuff, is my dad was a brain surgeon, so he was also the doctor for the Detroit Tigers. So I went to all the home games with him when there was a game. All right.
Gotcha.
But we never really got to see a complete game because you always get called into the hospital to do brain surgery. So what do you do with me? You throw me in the observation booth. So I saw 50 brain surgeries from the age of 6 to 8. So that always fascinated me, the trauma of the brain. What can I do to help that guy on the stretcher there in the operating room? What can I do to help him, the next generation of people coming through? So mitigating brain trauma was a big thing for us. All right, it is a big thing for us now. But for me, it was, we can just talk about the concussions. I mean, what do they do now for concussions? I don't think it's a very valid way to treat a concussion. You rest, don't think, stay in bed, don't jog until you start to feel better. I don't think that, in the testing they have now, is all like the impact tests and stuff like that. There's a lot of cognitive tests. There's some balance tests. There's other tests that you can take, but the people that I've talked to, and there's a lot, people try to fail those tests in the beginning, so if they get a concussion, they can still play. That's a problem. Right. So all of our metrics that we have that we're going to bring across, the country, is with actual objective metrics that you can actually see
and measure
it. You can't fake it. You can't. You're not going in. Even if you pass the impact test, but you still got to tape your eyes shut, and you have all these headaches, they'll still let you back in because you passed the impact test. It's
right.
Not time to go back.
Right.
So that's the big thing. But that's where the wellness racing stuff comes out. I mean, everything's segues, but everything's all tied in together. I mean that.
Right.
As far as the racing safety stuff, we have stuff that Formula One is using today, and IndyCar is using some of what we have today. But this whole system is going to keep the cars out of the fences. It's not going to stop any crashes. You're still going to get in a crash.
Right.
But it's the impact when you get to the fence, when you get to the wall, it's going to be a lot less. There won't be any cars getting in the air to go in the fence.
And we'll get into a lot more detail on that here in just a little bit, because obviously there's a whole lot that we can talk about. And just to remind everybody that's tuned in, because now we've got Jimmy Lehner's tuned in. He's watching. Thank you, Jimmy. Missy's tuned in. Your comment about depression, that is a big topic. I'm sure that's something else that you guys deal with. We've got Ernie Becker watching tonight. So, guys, just to remind you, for those of you that are tuned in watching tonight, feel free to jump in with questions for Kevin and Julie. Kevin or Julie. Julie, maybe not Kevin. Whatever. But by all means, let me know what you guys are thinking if you got specific questions. So, in terms of Brain Force, now, you opened this location last year?
No.
Beginning of this year.
Beginning of this year.
Officially.
And Rick Diorio's on. Nice to have you with us, Rick. So, okay, so now you talk about having metrics that you can measure to calm down brain waves or whatever you have to do and not go the pharmaceutical route. What kinds of things do you do here to be able to measure that? Do you have, are they tests that they do, computerized things? What kinds of things do you do to kind of get an assessment of where somebody's at when they come to you?
Well, okay, I've had this question asked before. You can jump in. I've had this question asked before. They said, what's the difference between what you do? We'll just talk about concussions, but it can be for any brain issue. What do you do for concussions that medical doctors do differently? And I said, well, that's pretty easy. If you walk into your garage and you hit your fuse box with a sledgehammer, the lights inside are going to flicker. The MDs run in the front door, try to change the light bulbs one by one, hoping they all come back on again. It doesn't work that way. So they just back out, paint the house, and say, check that house out. That's the wrong way to do it. We go into the fuse box. The brain is electric. You hit it with a hammer, you're gonna have some electronics that are different. It's gonna look different. So we do the QEEG brain map, and we look at 6,300 little areas in your brain, and every little box, we'll say every box in your brain, we look at all the brainwave frequencies from 0 to 45. We compare that with a normal database brain that's out there, and there's a database big enough to know, the sex, the right or left-handed, male or female. So we compare your brain in real time with a quote normal brain.
And the age of the patient comes into play as well.
Yeah, because all the brains do differently. So we look at it and then we say, okay, this is how far you are off from a normal brain. And when you come in and we do the EEG neurofeedback, we say, okay, we can train your brain. There's no electricity going this way. It's the sensors on the head that look at the brainwave patterns, and we do it all with sound. This technology's been around since the 50s, but the technology today is more so precise you can just pinpoint exactly where the problem is. But we train their brain back to a normal brain, and as you're going down toward normal, you can lose some of the issues that you have.
Now, is that something that, as you're training that injured brain back to the normal state, can you measure that progress as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you can't, I don't think you should do it. If you can't see what you're doing is doing anything, then don't do it. We do a brain map first, then we train it. 20 sessions later, we do another brain map. If there's no change in there, and again, this is 85%, 87, whatever percent success rate as far as changing the electronics of the brain. It's like taking the brain to the gym, taking the brain to physical therapy. Once you learn it, it's done. All right, but if there's no change in 20 visits, I usually set them down and say, well, maybe there's not going to be a change in 21 to 30, so you're probably done. But if we can notice a change, before we notice a change, they'll notice a change. When the kids come to us, before the parents notice a change, the teacher does. What have you done to this kid? What have you changed? Mm-hmm. So the kids that were on the medications are now off. We didn't take them off because we didn't put them on it. And their grades go up. And, we're just resetting the timing of the brain is all we do.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, and I've seen, just from looking at some of the folks on your Facebook stuff, some of these success stories that you've had about, parents with their kids and whether it's ADD or, issues they're having in school and how much of an effect that's had. Jimmy Laynard asked the question, are any of these procedures covered by insurance?
That they're starting to get more and more so, but see that the brain maps usually they do. All right, the therapy usually not. I mean, again, we're digging in the same insurance pocket that pharmaceutical companies are digging in. So they're going to try to squash us to say theirs is the way to go.
Sure, because they got big pockets, big staff.
Some do, some don't.
Some require a referral from their primary care physician or a psychologist, licensed psychologist.
I gotcha.
Some insurances require that.
So now, we kind of talked specifically about concussions, but what other kinds of brain issues can you guys do you deal with that you can have a positive effect on here at Brain Forest?
Yeah, I mean, we see PTSD, depression, anxiety, bipolar conditions, learning disabilities, autism,
behavioral disorders.
Yeah, behavior stuff. And there's usually you can see signatures in the brain map that indicate, okay, a lot of the PTSD people look like this. A lot of the autistic kids look like that. There's deficits and there's too much of something in the brain in certain areas, and you can see that.
Gotcha.
In dementia, in the older generations as well. So it changes your sleep architecture. Well,
chronic pain as well as migraines.
What about a question came up about what about addictions?
Addictions as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, addictions as well. That can surely help. I mean, we don't just do the brainwave stuff. I mean, we have some other stuff that we're working on as well, like NAD therapy, which is supposed to be, super for that as far as addiction goes. We work with an addiction clinic here, Emerald Clinic, which is very good. They're up in Cicero, but they just do nothing but addictions. So they send all the addicts, I don't care what it is, heroin, alcohol, pills, We do their brain map before they even go there. And they spend their 10 days or 12, 15, whatever days it is in their rehab.
Sure.
And then we do an after brain map. And the changes are, profound.
Obviously, and people that are chiming in, we're getting tons of loves on these posts. My wife chimed in. This is really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So and it's true. So I would imagine it's kind of a foregone conclusion. Somebody comes in and says, "Oh, my kid's struggling with ADD at school." I would imagine every one of your patients has kind of a customized treatment plan.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no one's, it's not like rip off a sheet of paper and say, do these exercises for everybody. I mean, that's not the way it is. I mean, everyone's brain is different. And I know that we're probably the only ones around this area that do the certain technique that we do. We do the one where we can train your brain, anybody's brain, back to, we have an 86-year-old lady in here, and we didn't think we'd find a normal brain for her to compare it to, but obviously it's in the database. But we train the people's brain, your brain, back to a normal brain, right? That's from 0 hertz all the way up to 45 hertz. We can treat below that at the very, very lowest frequency every brain has. That's what we're doing with you. So that technique actually finds everybody's default frequency and brings that up. So once your brain is like a dimmer switch on a light, you turn it all the way up. Over the years, it goes down and slower. So you just get in a brain fog and stuff like that. But we can train that up to bring your peak frequency up as high as we can. And everybody is either in a sympathetic or parasympathetic state, which means you're either hyper amped up, ready to go to war, ready to on edge, okay? Or you're just sitting on the couch all the time, or you're slowed down.
Right.
Now, the spectrum kids might be over here. High stress, anxiety might be over here. With the techniques that we use, we can move this gauge down so there's a balance between both. So that's where the big changes are.
Now this stuff, and we've got a couple more people joining. Louis Caban from Orlando, Florida is tuned in. He's watching. So this stuff seems, and maybe it's just, as a racer, this seems pretty like what you do, like a checklist for prepping a race car. This is the kinds of stuff that you would measure. This is what you would do. Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah.
Has it not been done to this point because of the pharmaceutical companies?
Probably, but I'll go to battle with those guys. But I mean, it's just about what's right for people. I mean, the medications that you take and the side effects that you take, that's a risk that you take. All right, but if the medications either raise your brain waves or lower them, they lower some that don't need to be lower, they raise some that don't need to be raised. Why don't you just focus on those boxes that need to be focused on? Right. So that's my thing.
Right. And the question came up, and I know, Julie, you just mentioned this a little bit ago. The question was about physician referral and insurance. So we figured that the insurance covers, I'm sorry, what you said, it covers you might need a referral from a psychologist first. The insurance covers that, but not the treatment. Is that right?
A lot of the insurances will cover the quantitative EEG, where we do the recording and get the data on their brain, and then compare it to the normative database and the CNS vital tests that we do and all of that. But some insurances, even though this has been named a best evidence-based practice and a level 1 highly effective treatment, some insurance carriers still do not recognize it as that. So they will try to get out of paying. So they will put stipulations on that you have to have a referral from your primary care physician or a licensed clinical psychologist.
Now, 7th Gear viewers, I want you to just think back on what Julie just said there. Level 1, highly effective treatment facility. Mm-hmm. This is really, really good stuff, guys. And it's just now starting to really get rolling here to the point where people are, and physicians, insurance companies are starting to recognize it. Mm-hmm. 2 questions. Our friend Robert Cook has jumped in.
Robert Cook.
I think we might know that guy.
Yeah.
Before I ask his question, though, this may be something that they have to call you directly on, but approximate cost of treatment for
the whole thing. Again, we don't treat anybody's wallet. We make payment arrangements with everybody. I mean, you can get, was it care credit or something like that? But it's probably going to be about $4,200 for everything.
Gotcha.
And again, that's a ballpark. That's going all the way. If you go to 20 visits, if we do, 15, 16, $1,700 to 20 visits, and if it's not working, you're done. But that's for 40 visits. They say 20 or 30 to 40 visits is when you notice that you've maxed out on that. I mean, you should have done.
Just to simplify it, if we're talking 40 visits maximum, about $4,200, that's about $100 a treatment.
Yeah.
Roughly.
That's with 4 brain maps or 2 brain maps in there to see, and all the other testing that we do along the way.
There you
Plus
go.
the nutrition along the way. Plus,
look at
there's a lot of stuff.
I can't believe that nobody else has jumped on this. This is why I know people like this, is because they're on the cutting edge of some of this stuff. Robert's question, and Missy said it's inexpensive for the price. Marie Zitza is on from Orlando as well. So Robert wanted to know, if I can get back to that question, what areas of the brain are affected by the impact, and what are their functions?
Which areas? Well, I mean, the whole brain.
Probably a typical Robert question.
Yeah, it is.
The impact test.
Unfriend him because he's going to ask more questions like that.
I'm sure. I kind of smelled that one out. I can tell.
So what is the brain impact? What areas?
Yeah, and what are their functions?
Well, it's the whole brain. I mean, the left side of your brain is your logical, analytical side of your brain. We'll just leave it vague like that. Your right side is your creative side. The consistency of a brain is like Jell-O. So if you hit the side of a bowl of Jell-O, the ripples are going to go all the way around the thing. Mm-hmm. So if you get hit in the front of the head, you're gonna bounce the brain off the back of your skull, and it's gonna twist and rotate, and you got a lot of issues there.
Gotcha. Well, it's interesting as we're talking through all of this cutting edge stuff, and you had said kind of early on in the show, about stuff that's been around since the 50s, or things that they aren't doing that just rest and don't think and that kind of stuff. I don't know if
that's still today.
Yeah. Well, and I think back to one of the stories that we talked about when I was interviewing Angela this afternoon. Ted had actually told me this. I didn't even know this before, but back in '71. Swede Savage hit the wall at Ontario when his throttle stuck open, and he was in a coma for a couple of days. And when he came out of the coma, they weren't sure if he was going to be able to get back in the car, because he was, out of it and groggy, and because he was Dan Gurney's protege, he took Swede out to Bob Bondurant's school, my old boss, and put him in a go-kart just to see if he'd even make it back. And they said the first day he was really not there, but by the end of the second day he came back. But that was, that's put some ice on it and it'll be fine kind of mentality. And fortunately for him, he came back, and he missed all but the last race of '71, and when he did come back, he qualified 4th. But obviously, as we're talking, there's so much more that can be offered through you guys for all of these types of things, whether it's the PTSD, the ADD, the concussions, whatever. So to that point then, let's move then into actually, let me take that back, because I don't want to forget this if we get to the end of the show and we're talking about other stuff. So for people that are watching right now and they think that this could help them, how do they find you? Because right now this is the only location you have, right?
Well, we got this one, and we got West Lafayette for right now.
So 2.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think.
A future location will be in Zionsville area.
Yeah, we're just talking about Indy. We're just talking about. It gets complicated. I mean, because we have the answers to everything. But
I know.
What I'm saying is what we're doing with the metrics that we have. We're going to follow race series. We got this is another announcement for another day, but. Let's just say
I sense a second show coming.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. So okay, let's say we are a mobile concussion detection mitigation rig that we follow racing around. All right.
Which you and I have kind of talked a little bit about in the past.
So we're going to go to the schools and give away legit brain maps, baseline, legit, right? So you can't fake these. It's got the eyeball stuff, it's got the hearing stuff. It's got the brain stuff. This is a 5-minute thing. Get it done. They get a little chip in either their key fob thing, or they get a bracelet with one. Right? We're going to get these doctors. We're going to have affiliate doctors across the country that buy our kit that has everything needed with protocols and everything to do what we would do here across the country.
Gotcha.
So if we follow those around and we give the kits to the schools, you know, that's good. There's a lot of red tape there, but we already know about all that red tape. We know how to cut it. So if we do all that across the country, we could be across the country near where these racetracks are next year. But right now we're right here. And we just got a lot of about $2 million from grants and what is it? Grants and incentives.
Grants, reimbursements, and tax
From the town of
incentives.
Fishers and the state. They want to keep us here. They want to keep all this high tech stuff we got going on here. So we're gonna be able to expand, you know, a lot quicker.
That's fantastic. That's really great.
Yeah.
One of the other question that just came up, and this kind of leads to what I was driving at here, and we talk more about motorsport stuff. The question that came in was about helmet technology. In the motorcycle world, the new helmet technology is 6D and MIPS to help protect the brain for concussions. The question is, do you see auto racing helmet technology going that route to protect drivers?
To protect, well, yes. With what we have, I'm pretty sure with what we have would do that. Part of our system, we have the wellness racing patent. Again, is for the car, to keep the car on the track. Avoid the secondary accidents. But we have another patent. We have another patent, which is a patent. We have another patent, which is called the retina, and that is actually helmet stuff. That is actually, as far as this is going to spill over to the, I don't know how much detail I should say. It's going to spill over the commercial area and the racing. So what we do is we know what the driver's brain status is while they're driving. We know what the brain status is in real time if they get in a crash. And we know if they get a concussion in a crash. Now, I had this question a lot, and I've talked to a lot of people that race. You know, I said, hey, when do you take the helmet off? And they said they take it off right away. And I said, why do you take it off right away? And I guess because it's hot, I guess. You know, but anyway.
Sure.
So what we have is as soon as they crash, as soon as their baseline is shifted so bad from the metrics that we get in real time on the driver, the screen flashes at the infield care center and what the brain status is before the car stops rolling. So if there's a bleed or swelling or inflammation in there, they know right away. They know what side of the brain it's on. They hit a button and the helmet chills like a root beer mug. It cools the blood going into the brain.
Keep the swelling down, all that
keep
stuff.
the swelling and bleeding down. We have a collar that does the same kind of thing to keep the swelling and bleeding down until they get to the hospital. It reads the brain map, the EEG signal. It goes directly to the level 1 trauma center on its way, so they know where to cut once they arrive. So this could be also used on bikes. You know, if you fall off, hit your head on a motorcycle, boom, it sends a signal up to 911, so they're rolling by the time you're done flopping around. But it also chills your helmet to cool it down.
Now, is that something that's some of your technology
Yeah.
that you're basically?
Yeah, that's another patent. Yeah.
There you go.
All about from the neck up. I want to own it. You know, I mean, there is nobody out there that does anything, and I gotta say this slowly, in the golden hour after an accident.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
there's nothing to do. I asked the paramedics, what do you do if you know they got a pupil bigger than the other one? What do you do? And you know there's a bleeder. They go, well, there's nothing we can do.
Right.
Step on the gas, get to the hospital.
Right.
But our mitigating stuff that we came up with is actually can be used and take that golden hour to keep the swelling, the bleeding down till they get to the hospital.
Gotcha.
And that's some of the most critical time because some of the damage, a lot of the damage is caused from the inflammation and swelling.
That's exactly what happened to my family. So yeah, I know what you mean. Ernie says, great information. Thank you.
Tell Ernie thank you.
Thanks, Ernie.
So now, with kind of that topic, let's just take motorsports and you know, obviously there's motorcycles, there's, you know, whatever. Does that system of the helmet and the chilling and the sensor going off in the infield care center, is that a system that the tracks have to own and buy, or the series has to own and buy in order for that to be implemented?
I think we'll do some kind of lease thing on that, just like we are with the Avoid system that we have. Robert would know more about that. He's on our team. He's on our race team to figure all that stuff out. So,
why is Robert not here? He's going to be.
He lives in
asking
Fort
these
Wayne.
questions.
He lives in Fort Wayne. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, Robert, you
Robert will have to be on the next one.
Next
Robert,
show.
you're killing me.
Yeah, he's our tech guy.
So you're working with a bunch of different series.
Yep.
In fact, I think one of the last times you and I talked, it was Mid Ohio for the Formula 4 weekend.
Yeah.
Out there. So what series have you been working with and are interested in?
Well,
What
they're
you guys
all
are doing?
interested because they don't have any protocols like we have, and the protocol is being we're going to have a nice rig, which we'll talk about that later. But inside of that rig is like a mobile brain center. We have all the drivers' baselines, so we know if they get a concussion. You know, we have them they're on eyeball tracking glasses on a simulator on a track they know really well. So we can analyze all this stuff on the data, the breakpoints, where they're turning in. You know, we know all their stuff.
So, and that raises a good question because it's something else that I'm doing a little bit of work with. I thought I saw you had a picture, maybe on your Facebook page or something like that, of a driver in a simulator.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Is that part of a treatment potentially?
No,
or is
that's getting his baseline.
Okay, so that would be part of the mobile brain center that
Yes.
you would take from track to track.
Yep. Yep.
And is that how you would establish initial baselines for drivers in whatever series?
Yes.
Gotcha. And is that, I mean, do you guys have that kind of simulator
By the end of the year, yes.
right now?
Oh yeah, we got the simulators. We got all that stuff. We work with Racecraft One.
We'll have a conversation with that
Yeah.
offline.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's really, again, cutting edge technology that you're bringing to the industry, which is phenomenal. Which kind of leads to the next point, particularly in terms of open wheel racing. Obviously, over the last several years, we've seen, Michael Schumacher, his life altered irreversibly. We've lost Justin Wilson, we've lost Dan Weldon, we've lost Jules Bianchi, and now we've got this whole idea of the halo, particularly on Formula One cars being the way to go. What is your take on the whole halo system, and what's a better alternative?
I say,
if that's not
the halo is not the way to go. I mean, obviously for the extraction, if it flips over, there's a fire, but that's not the way to go in the first place. I think leave open wheel, open cockpit. I think that's the way to go. Our system has, I think I can go back and look at all the deaths in racing, and the only one that this system would not have saved was probably Smiley. But the rest of the people probably would have. It's not going to vanilla the racing.
right.
You're going to crash. There's going to be parts flying everywhere, but the impact is going to be a lot less with what stuff we have. But part of this box, this avoid box, has a virtual canopy in it. It's electronics. I can't go into all the details.
I was going to say, if you can explain what a virtual canopy means,
Okay, well,
without giving too much away.
Oh, I mean, when the yellow's out, the yellow's out. That means just chill. I mean, some stuff's probably happening, bouncing down the track, flying down the track. The technology that we have, you can tell what's coming in, if it's carbon fiber or if it is Timmy Sippy Cup he threw over the fence. It's going to make sure that the helmet and the trash never meet.
Gotcha.
That's all I can say about that.
That's fine.
But yeah,
That's
so
fine.
it's a virtual canopy.
Okay. So, thinking along the safety lines in motorsports, so, obviously, this whole the upgrading of the helmets to this new technology is going to be huge. The virtual canopy and the system that you're developing is obviously huge. When Weldon was tragically killed in Las Vegas a few years back, they talked all along about how to change the fencing systems on that. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, I do. I'm glad you asked. No,
That's why I'm here.
It's going to cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to replace the fencing. Okay, no track's going to do it. They're going to say, take a hike. We're not having a race here anymore because I'm not paying to get this fence fixed. So our method is, and they were talking about hockey glass too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I wouldn't like to be the window cleaner
Paul
on
Tracy
that.
brought that one up.
Yeah, Paul
Maybe because
Tracy,
he's Canadian.
Yeah, that's probably why. But that won't work either because you can't see through it. The answer that we have and the viable solution that we have is keep the car out of the fence. Keep it on the track.
So do you think that aside from the technology things that you guys are developing, you think there's anything that the car manufacturers, whether it's Dallara or the series, have to do to change within the cars? Do they need to go back to flat bottom cars with no under trays? Do they need to narrow the
slow 'em down,
tires?
you mean?
Is there any of that stuff that should be done, or do you think should be done?
No, I think they're doing okay. They're doing a good job. I mean, I just think that there's a key component missing, and we got the key component. So I mean, I'm pretty confident.
It's good to be the king, right?
Well, no. I was just saying, it's very simple to keep a car on the track, I'd say. And the halo is ridiculous anyway. Because if you can see the helmet, debris can see you. You know
Well,
what I mean, there's a big opening up here, like Surtees crash when the wheel assembly hit him on top of the head.
Yeah.
It still hit him on top of the head with a halo in there.
Well, of course, and you could say, oh, well, would that have prevented the spring hitting Massa in the face at Monza? Probably not. Would it have prevented the nose cone hitting Justin Wilson in the head? Probably not.
No, because there's a little mark on his car like that big, just around the side pod, so it was like flat on the head. That was it.
Right. Right.
No, it would not.
So okay, and I tend to agree with you because I think that a lot of times there tends to be overthinking of this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's really good news. So speaking of the cars being safe and everything, you being particularly an open wheel fan and a racing fan in general, what do you think of the new aero packages that the Indy cars are coming out with?
It's a step in the right direction.
I think so too.
I took those mailboxes off the back of the car. It just looks a lot better. Those didn't do anything either.
Well, I think. No, I'm not gonna say it.
Say it.
That might be. I was just gonna say. I think the Andretti team might have a few extras there.
Snap! Yeah, they probably do.
Yeah, they probably
right.
But okay, so what have we not covered yet? Because one of the things that I didn't even talk about as a preview to the show, which is kind of a little off topic, but not kind of like everything that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
One of the biggest race weekends in North American motorsports is going on this weekend, and because these shows, Joel Thorne, couldn't we just bubble wrap the drivers?
Good idea.
Hi, Joel.
But one of the biggest race weekends of North America is going on this weekend, and it's Formula One in the United States at COTA, and we'll talk about that in a second. But before we kind of get into that, anything from wellness racing, Cortical Impact Solutions, any of these technologies, Brain Forest that I have not thought to ask or that people that may be interested need to know?
Julie?
Should we mention the
You mention whatever you want.
sideline concussion equipment for?
Oh, giving it away to the schools?
Well, for amateur sports and all the way up to pro sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, we're developing some technology that we want to have on the sidelines for different level sports, everything from amateur to college to professional sports. And the whole idea is to detect a concussion as it happens, whether it's symptomatic or not, because a lot of concussions are not symptomatic. They don't have any symptoms, or they try to avoid admitting to those symptoms because they want to go back in the game. So this would be a sure way to measure the eye movement, and also there's an auditory component, and then the brain waves, which would detect if they did indeed have a concussion, even if it's a mini concussion, because if left untreated, that damage can be cumulative and very damaging. And the ongoing side effects more than likely would be ADHD-like symptoms, maybe some changes in mood, personality changes, some anger outbursts, specific things like that. And
Definite signs of personality changes.
Yeah, and another thing that a lot of studies are finding is that anytime there is a traumatic brain injury, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe, one of the biggest side effects immediately is leaky gut syndrome, which causes a lot of other chronic health issues as well, which is, I don't know if we mentioned earlier or not, but nutrition's a big component of what we do here at the Brain Force Center.
Gotcha.
Also, so
Yeah.
tying that in.
If you the average kid or parent, I guess, pays like $15,000 a year for a kid on ADD. Whether it be the
For their medication.
time for off work to take their kid somewhere to different doctors to get their script filled, but what you find is these kids that come off the medication, or if they yo-yo them, like put them on medication during the week, forget it on the weekend, forget over the summer, that yo-yo effect it really messes them up. But if they get out of school or they go to college, they go wherever they go, they have to get their own medicine again if they don't have insurance and stuff like that. Then you start to go, illicit drug route to try to give the brain fix that you had on the Adderall and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I mean, it's just as far as I just say fix it and forget it, kind of thing.
So that Joel Thorne asked the next question after the bubble wrap. He said, "Seriously, when do you think we might see your efforts come to fruition? Awesome technology, need it now. Thanks for your ongoing work for TBI sufferers."
A big hug to you, Joel. We're working on that next year. We're gonna do a lot of the testing. Next year, Joel.
So, you mentioned something that sparked another thought, Julie, about the concussion sideline technology that you want to get out there. Obviously, with what you guys do and your focus, I'm sure you pay a lot of attention to everything that's going on in the NFL with all that stuff and the CTE and everything. They've always said that they can't confirm for sure until after the patient is gone because they have to get into their brain to look at it. And you have these athletes basically that are willing to will their brains to science afterwards. Is there a better way, or if not now, that you see coming down the line in the future to where that can be diagnosed or recognized sooner?
I mean, I've heard from people who are above my pay grade saying that you can see the electronics of it. That's all I know. I don't know how to look for it, where to look for it, or anything. But I heard that you can detect it while they're alive.
Gotcha.
So, because things slow down where where it crosses the brain, and that little part that crosses the brain and connects both sides of the brain together should be thick, but it gets really thin like that. So I can see electronic signals crossing the area slow down, and you can see it that way. So
and I would imagine
guess
a lot of the synapses that connect those get broken in that kind of a impact.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't say for sure. I mean, I just heard them talking about it. There was.
Some of the experts in the field of neuroscience, some of our mentors claim that you can see some specific signatures in the quantitative EEG, which is what we do.
But
and then also in SPECT imaging as well.
Yeah, SPECT imaging. But I mean, just to nutshell this out again. But I mean, if you come in here and you get a baseline, a brain map, that's your baseline. All right, normal's over here. We train you over here, back to there,
Right.
But if you're here and you get a concussion, now you're over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So conversely, we can treat you from here back to your baseline. So if in that space in here is your electronic signature of a concussion, and we get you back to here, where did the concussion go?
Right.
You scrubbed it, I mean, so you're not going to have that stuff in the future,
Gotcha.
So I don't know how. This is your baseline. I don't know, and you get a concussion. I don't know how medicine, rest, or anything else is going to get the electronics to go back to here.
Right.
If somebody can please explain it to me, I just don't see how that's possible, unless you actually change electronics.
Right. And it makes perfect sense to me.
Me too.
So Robert, thanks. Now, from where's he at? The
Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne. So he sends in a link for the Halo in Formula 3. Like I can really pull that up right now.
Yeah.
And Robert actually he asked another question, which was actually something that I was going to have a talk with you about as well, about training to boost performance beyond back to normal.
Okay.
Is that something that's
peak performance training? That's done a lot. I mean.
And are you doing anything like that right now? Or are you planning to do anything?
Yeah,
that's
totally part of our. See, it's for our driver enhancement program.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they got to get in the rig at the track before the race comes on. You got to get rid of all the static of the brain and increase all the waves to increase your focus and concentration. That's what we do. But we can do it here for executives, CEOs of big companies do it. There are places out there in the country that do this. I mean, we're not no one's as cool as us, that's for sure.
Well, obviously, that's why I'm here. Hello.
That's a good, yeah. But, so executives use it to make their decision-making a lot better for big, meetings that they have and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of static that goes on in our brains.
True that.
And to think about race car drivers being on the track, I mean, they need to be at their peak performance at all times. I mean, one mistake and, could be life-changing or life-threatening.
I just remember when I did my Indy Lights rookie test at Chicagoland. I mean, you can't be a little bit off.
No.
Yeah.
You got to be all about it.
Yeah, so that's our driver enhancement program. again, that's with the concussion stuff. But all the baselines we have on the drivers, we have it. And we're going to get our own database of pre and post concussion. So we're going to have our own cloud data of brains, you know.
Well, and it sounds to me too like with everybody that you're treating, you're further developing your own internal database besides the references that you're currently using. So
yep. But I mean, if they get a brain map, again, we're going to go across the country and give these away to the kids that need them. Everyone needs one. If you got a brain, just take it, and then give a unit to the school, like a defibrillator unit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if they never play a game of sports in their life, that's fine. I mean, what if they have a auto accident or have a concussion 10 years from now? Well, let's see how bad that is because we got your brain in our database.
Right.
Or a bad
That's the
bicycle
key
crash.
thing. Yeah.
Or, you know,
Sure.
kids have accidents all the time.
Absolutely.
So, and again, with our affiliate doctors we have across the country, they can jump in, slide in, and see them. You know, if they got that key fob card, they walk in, like if we do a brain map of somebody in California, close to a track in the beginning, but then we'll go everywhere. We have affiliate doctors out there. If they get a concussion, they go into that affiliate doctor and they hit their key fob up in that doctor's office, and his baseline map comes up on the doctor's computer and his new one, and the treatment protocols and how to get back to his baseline. So that's, you know, we're not only detecting stuff with the brain, we're mitigating the problem.
Right.
All over.
Oh yeah, and that's something you brought up earlier about the treatment protocols. Protocols are tailored to each patient and very specific to what all the findings are on the quantitative EEG, and all that data is stored in there, as well as we can put in like previous diagnoses and then what our findings are, and all that is calculated to come up with their very specific tailored treatment protocols.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Wow. Unbelievable stuff you guys have going. It's literally at the forefront of the industry and the technology. Everything from, you know, the virtual canopies to the helmets to the concussion protocol to the testing. Anybody that thinks that they could or knows anybody that may benefit from this stuff needs to get a hold of you guys here at the Brain Forest Center.
We got a website if you want to go look at that. It's brainforcecenters.com.
Yeah. BrainForceLife.com.
No, it's brainforcecenters.com or brainforcelife.com.
Paul, help me out here.
Yeah, Paul, you're a good circler with that crayon, Paul.
Sorry.
Appreciate that. That's pretty good.
And if you're here in Indianapolis, we're here in Fishers at 9746 Lantern Road. You can reach them at 317-409-9708.
That's our mobile number.
Okay.
Give the office number. See.
The office number is 317-288-9828.
There you go.
And we're in West Lafayette as well, and
soon to be in Zionsville.
I was going to
area.
say, it sounds like with everything that you guys have going on, I can only venture to guess that your roster of patients has continued to grow and grow and grow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Absolutely.
surprised you guys don't have more locations open based on
we
the need.
will. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
They just can't come fast enough, right?
No, I mean we're technically not open, but super busy because we're waiting for them to finish our building at downtown Fishers.
Yeah, we haven't even had a grand opening yet.
We haven't even
We haven't
done
even
it.
done
But I mean, people that's
advertising
heard through the grapevine refer their friend, so we're just busy. You know,
And is that pretty much how you
Yeah.
guys
Lots
have
of
built
friends
what
and
you've
family.
had to gotten to this point
Yeah.
from the
Just
beginning of
word
the
of
year?
mouth, yeah.
That's kind of what I thought.
That's it.
That's
Aside
pretty
from our
powerful
commercial.
stuff.
Yeah, and we're going to be in racing a lot. We're going to sponsor cars and racing to get our awareness, our brand out there and stuff like that. We're going to have rigs around.
I think I might know somebody that
I
could
think
put
you
in
might.
touch with.
I think you might. So yeah. So then and again, it's like the levels of coffee that you drink, the more things you've come up with. But I mean, we're gonna have like wearable technology in the suits because the suits have the EEG stuff, the racing suits, for what we have in the helmets to detect the brainwave stuff.
Well, you know, I think then perhaps what we should think about doing is maybe coming back and doing a second show where we can actually show some of that stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to.
When you're ready. You
I'd
know?
love to.
Whether it's at the racetrack or, you know, maybe somewhere around here. But
We'd
I think,
love to. And we'd get Robert down here too for that one, maybe.
Yeah, and Robert, don't. You can bring the actual printouts of these websites that you're sending me links to on the show, so I can not show people what you're sending me.
But yeah, I mean, if we could show people in real time what a brain looks like and what a concussion looks like, we can hit Powell on the head with a 2x4.
Yeah.
We do it before and after.
Robert says, "I guess I'll have to be there." Yes.
Yes, you
yes,
will.
you will. That's right. be there or be square, right? But
Yep.
awesome stuff, guys. Thank you very much for. We've gone almost an hour.
Perfect.
So this has
I'm
been
just warming up.
well. The
just
stand-up
settling down.
set is
Nothing's
in
worse.
about 6 minutes here,
All right,
guys.
stand up will be over.
Yeah, exactly. So. Just turn this back around real quick. Again, I want to say a huge thanks to both Julie and Kevin for letting us hang out here at the Brain Forest Centers in Fishers. This is, Robert says he'll have coffee for Julie.
Nice for you. Damn him.
Yeah, damn him.
Yeah.
But I am so thankful to both Julie and Kevin for taking some time out of their busy schedule to share with us some of this phenomenal technology that these guys have going on. They are definitely leading edge stuff here. So, if you've got any questions, by all means, message me. But you've also got the contact info for them here at Brain Forest Centers. So until 2 weeks from now, guys, I'm going to tell you, be greater. And don't forget to go check out beanonhuman.com for all your lifestyle and apparel needs. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you guys.